The Mi Note 10 Lite sports the same 6.47-inch FHD Plus AMOLED display on the regular Mi 10 Note. The device comes with a water drop style notch which holds the front camera. It is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 730G chipset. The device comes with two variants, 6GB of RAM and 64GB of onboard storage, or 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. If you consider the price, you are getting a good deal with the spec provided by Xiaomi. It also features a 3.5mm headphone jack. The phone comes with MIUI 11 based on Android 10 out of the box. Mi Note 10 Lite featured a quad rear camera array along with dual LED flash, a primary 64MP Samsung GW1 sensor, an 8MP ultra-wide camera, a 5MP macro lens and a 2MP depth sensor. You can record 4K video at 30fps with this device. Over to the front, the Mi Note 10 Lite have a 32MP selfie camera. As for the power, there is a 5260mAh battery with 30W fast charging support. With this battery, you can easily go through a day without any trouble. The Mi 10 Youth Edition sports a 6.57-inch FHD Plus AMOLED display. Sadly, Xiaomi chooses to keep high refresh rate AMOLED displays exclusive to its more expensive offerings, leaving this phone with a 60Hz display. It does get a 180Hz touch sampling for better sensitivity. The display maxes out at 800 nits and sports a water drop notch instead of the punch hole on the Mi 10 and Mi 10 Pro. The smartphone adopts a beautiful design. All the four corners of the smartphones are a standard rectangle in 6.57 inches size. The Mi 10 Youth Edition supports NFC and offers an in-display fingerprint reader, an IR blaster and thankfully a 3.5mm headphone jack. Under the hood is a Snapdragon 765G which offers 5G connectivity. RAM maxes out at 8GB, storage at 256GB. With this RAM and processor, you can expect a smooth experience when scrolling and using power-intensive apps. Cameras are where the Mi 10 Youth Edition shines. It sports 4 rear cameras, a 48MP main sensor, an 8MP ultra-wide-angle lens, and a 2MP macro lens for close-ups. The star of the show, however, is an OIS-equipped 8MP periscope lens capable of 5x optical zoom, 10x hybrid zoom and 50x digital zoom. You can record 4K video at 30fps and 720p super slow-mo video at 960fps. The selfie camera is a 16MP sensor. In addition to the quad camera setup for still photography, there are a few AI-based camera tricks too. There is the sky replacement tool which is now familiar to you all by now. Further, users can also shoot a video with inset previews for both the front and back camera, recording much wider context and reactions. There's a 4160mAh battery with Quick Charge 4 Plus and USB PD 3.0 support for fast charging. The Redmi K30 Pro brings back the pop-up front-facing camera, which we haven't seen much of it in 2020 compared to 2019. This ensures the 6.67-inch AMOLED screen isn't broken up by any notches. The K30 Pro features an almost completely bezel-less display, with the company quoting a 92.7% screen-to-body ratio, but it tops out at 60Hz compared to 120Hz refresh rate seen on the standard Redmi K30. However, it offers 180Hz touch sampling for better gaming. The display does deliver HDR10+ support. The chipset in here is the Snapdragon 865 paired with 8GB of RAM. This is the top-end processor available to Android phones at this time, and that should ensure great processing speeds. The Redmi K30 Pro is also a 5G phone. You will have no trouble playing games in this device. The Redmi K30 Pro is made for the gaming enthusiasts in mind, with a massive cooling system, a large multi-layer graphite and 9 built-in temperature sensors. It intelligently predicts and controls its internal temperature, ensuring sustained peak performance even when you are playing games for long hours. There are 4 rear cameras on the phone consisting of a 64MP main, 5MP telephoto, 13MP ultra-wide and 2MP macro snapper. But there are a few camera features that might impress, including 8K video recording and a macro shooting mode on the telephoto lens, as well as the dedicated macro lens. It can record 8K video at 30fps and 960fps super slow-mo at 1080p resolution. It sports a motorized pop-up 20MP selfie camera. The Redmi K30 Pro features a 4700mAh battery with 33W fast battery charging that charges the phone fully in just 63 minutes. The Redmi K30 series has a new design adopting the dual punch-hole front selfie camera. The back design is quite stylish with the drop coin camera placement design, which is pretty much unique on its own. It also has the fingerprint scanner placed on the side of the phone where the power button is placed. The phone comes with a 6.67-inch touchscreen display and protected by Corning Gorilla Glass 5. The processor is the SD765G coupled with 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. The speed of the 5G edition did improve over the 4G sibling. The Redmi K30 has 4 cameras on the rear and 2 on the front. There is the new 64MP Sony IMX686, a direct successor to the popular 48MP IMX586, an ultra-wide 8MP sensor, a 2MP macro camera and a 2MP depth sensor. The new IMX686 sensor pulls its weight in good light and bins images to 16MP. Xiaomi's image processing is quite flat. There's a lot of dynamic range, but it's not overdone like a lot of other manufacturers. You can record 4K video at 30fps and 720 resolution super slow-mo video at 960fps. On the front there are 2 cameras, one is 20MP and supported by a 2MP depth sensor. The selfie camera has good sharpness in good light, but the flat color profile doesn't look very good on skin tones. If you are a big selfie person, you will want to apply a filter or to edit your photos before you share them. The phone is backed by a 4500mAh battery along with 30W fast charging support. Overall, this is a great budget-friendly 5G phone. Redmi Note 9 Pro is a bulky phone. The front and rear of the Redmi Note 9 Pro are both made using Gorilla Glass 5, while the frame is polycarbonate. The most distinctive feature on the front is of course the new embedded selfie camera, which is centered at the top of the screen. Xiaomi has done well in terms of design, and the Redmi Note 9 Pro does feel fresh without actually changing too much for a phone in this segment. There's the usual USB Type-C port, 3.5mm audio socket and a speaker on the bottom. You get a 6.67-inch Full HD Plus screen which has a tall aspect ratio to accommodate the front camera. It might surprise many fans who follow current trends because it is a standard 60Hz panel and doesn't have a 90Hz refresh rate like some other recently launched devices. This device comes with the Snapdragon 720G chipset. You can get the Redmi Note 9 Pro with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage, or with 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. The Redmi Note 9 Pro is more than powerful enough to handle anything from basic calls and messaging all the way up to heavy 3D gaming and with no trouble whatsoever. The squared-off camera bump on the rear might also surprise some Redmi Note series fans. It is a quad camera setup. The primary shooter has a 48MP resolution with 1.79 aperture. Next to it you will find an 8MP wide-angle camera, which is a pretty standard for this price level. The 2MP depth sensor in the lower row is also basic. What is interesting is the fact that the macro camera has a 5MP resolution. This device comes with an improved night mode, super face detection autofocus and a color profile optimized for Indian users. Video can be recorded at 4K 30fps or 1080p at 60fps. 720p slow-mo recording goes up to 960fps. One of this phone's primary target audience is video content creators, especially TikTok users. So there's a short video mode with a 15-second cutoff. The front camera has a 16MP resolution. With daytime photos, we found the primary camera to be reasonably good. Close-ups look good and details were clear in foreground subjects. The 5MP macro camera does deliver much higher quality shots than we have seen from most other macro cameras. The front camera is fairly good in daytime as well as at night. As for the battery, it comes with 5020mAh capacity with 18W fast charging support.